It's Aloha Authentic.
Aloha no, and welcome to another episode of Aloha Authentic with Kamakopili. We're a platform to Hawaii's local artists and cultural practitioners where they can really get deep and down into the stories of their art and their work and their practice to share with everybody, to share the aloha. So welcome to today's episode. Our special guest with us, and a very creative person, and I'm very happy to have him on the show, Ruben Aira Jr.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for being a part of this show with us. But before I jump into Ruben and this whole creative artistic expressions behind me, I want to explain for any little distractions that might take place during this episode. I have a bowl of poi, and then I also have a little bowl of fresh poke, as well as a fresh water straight from Safeway. But the whole point of this is that for me, growing up, my tutu, she always explained that whenever the bowl of poi is open on the dinner table and we're sitting down with everybody and we're sharing our stories as a family, we don't speak anything negative, because that negativity, spiritually and emotionally, will get caught into the poi, and when you eat it, it's going to be all sour and it's not going to be good. So when the bowl of poi is open, we speak of only positive energy and stories of creation and such. So kalamai for any distraction, but we might be getting a little bit kau-kau while we're vala'oing over here. That being said, let's jump right into this. Ruben.
All right.
What you have brought with us today is amazing, to say the least. Can you share a little bit about what is this? What is your art?
Well, what we have here is my surfboard carvings, and it's something that I've been doing for going on 6-7 years now. Mm-hmm. And actually, originally I started with, this is my very first piece right here, this white one, and that was the very first one I carved, and it was the.
These are actual real surfboards.
These are real surfboards. These are surfboards that I used to live on the North Shore. I was up on the North Shore probably for 10, 12 years. Mm-hmm. And
always surfing. So you must see a lot of these stuff washed up on the shore, kind of.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Of course, and everybody sees them. Everybody's got a surfboard, an old surfboard in their yard, or their neighbor's got one stuffed in a hole in a fence, or just laying around, right? Or even just laying on the beach, right? Yeah. And it's on the beach, it's just rubbish, it's just old boards.
So you go and you find these.
Yeah. Or people give them to me because people know I do this kind of work, right?
Right on.
So as opposed to taking them into the landfill or taking them to the dump, and then
doing nothing with
nothing. It's just it's waste, and it's something that doesn't belong in the earth, right? Yeah. I reuse them, and I turn them into artwork, right?
The first thing I look at this is the time it must take to put into something as detailed, especially that one. I mean, that even looks more detailed. But what is the process, and I mean the time that you spend on, say, a full board compared to maybe something like this behind you?
Well, yeah, of course, with a half board, and this is a broken board, right? Something that broke in half. And it takes less time, but even a half board, full board, I still try to finish it and make it a beautiful piece, right? You, if something's small or something big, you still take the care and the time. You still take the time to make it a beautiful thing and to finish it and to present it in the right way, right?
What made you, out of all, what other art, do you do any other art, or is this what you mainly focus on?
I have a fine art background. So
what made you get in, or how did you figure this out? Did you learn from somebody, or was this something that you just picked up as you went along?
This is just, the way it happened was I was just working, trying to make ends meet, and not having, my kids were just born, and so I didn't have a lot of extra money for art supplies or to buy canvas or nice piece of wood or anything like that.
Here's a cereal box. And
yeah. I had to use what was around, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is something that we could all do, right? The value in something that may seem valueless is what you put into it. And I found that there was an old board, of course. I was up on the North Shore. There was an old board sitting in my yard, and I was like, well, let's see what I can do with this, right? Yeah. And that's where it starts.
I'm looking at this. This is what the quality of it, the whole board was. You kept the original. So to turn something into, to see the value of something that could be invaluable, like to one man something is treasure, but to another could be their trash.
And if you'd have seen it originally, when I cut the glass off and I pulled the fiberglass off, and then it was just the foam, there was the board had a big split in it,
Yeah.
and had a bunch of water damage. So I have to, actually, if I had just a blank, it would be a lot easier for me. You know, if I just bought surfboard blanks, then I could start with a clean, fresh thing. But starting from something that's damaged and that's repurposed and recycled is actually a little more effort, because then I gotta fix this surface, and I gotta reinforce whatever cracks there are, or you know, and put it back together. But to me, that's the fun part, is that this was just an old board that actually a friend of mine gave me that he just had in his backyard that he was going to just take to the dump.
Yeah.
And so the fun part for me is taking that and making a beautiful wall hanging. And this is a portrait that I did of an actual person. So, you know, not only did I reuse the old board, but now I've given somebody a self-portrait that they can have on their wall and keep forever. You know, it'll become part of their.
Last forever.
It'll last forever, and it'll be part of their family now.
And the cool thing is that you have literally unlimited amount of canvas.
Of course,
because there's a lot of people who don't know how to do that, so it really is just trash.
But
laying around on the side of the house.
and the thing is too is that I use surfboards because I lived on the North Shore. But if I lived in a place where there was a big cardboard factory, or I lived in a place where there was a metal, you know, whatever it was, wherever you live, there are things around you that you can use to create art, or to create craft, or to create a music, or to create. You just have to see it for more than what it seems to be, right? And being on the North Shore, of course, surfboards,
you find them all over.
it was everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not, the fact that it's surfboards is only because I lived there. It could have been anything.
So what would your message, I mean, every artist creates from some sort of passion, some sort of something that they learned that, you know, through their art they try to express and to share. Through this, I mean, I also see, you know, the beginning process, and compare that with the finished process.
Right.
Like, what is your message when it comes to your art that you try to share along?
I think that a lot of people, when it comes to creativity, they make excuses like, oh, I can't afford the right program, I don't have the right tools, I don't have the right paintbrush, I don't have the right this, I don't have the right that.
They don't fit the criteria of as an artist.
And they think that they need all these things to be
Yeah.
creative. They think that they need to have the fancy this.
Yeah.
I don't have the money, I can't buy that. I can't make that. If I had, I could. You have everything you need within yourself. You can create anything out of anything. And when you start thinking about, oh, I don't have the money to buy this thing, I don't have the right tools, that guy could do it because he's got all this stuff and he's famous. No, you can do anything with anything, because within all of us we have a creative energy.
Yeah, everybody's artistic.
Yeah,
in their own
everybody is, and
sense.
we can't limit ourselves in our creativity. We can't say, well, we can't do it, right? We have to believe that we can do anything, right?
Well, if you can't sing, no, I'm just-
Well, we all have limits,
I
right?
can't sing. Yeah.
But you're not limited by the, you know, by the amount of money you have,
is really stepping outside of your box of
because
what you're comfortable
the
with.
cost of making some of these has been zero for me. I mean, other than the hours that I've put into the creation of them, you know, it's paint, it's some knives and some sanding tools.
So
and
what is your process? Like, take me from a step from a full board, you know, to this work in progress, which is, I mean, the first thing that catches my eye is how you keep part of the actual laminate part of the board in,
Right.
as well as you create with, you know, remove some and create with the foam. What is the process that it takes to get to a finished product?
So this was just an older board, just like everything else. And so you start off with, as is with a lot of things, you do a drawing, you plan it out a little bit, because you want to, if you want to get it done in a faster amount of time, you have to have it somewhat planned out. I mean, and you can freeform it. Like this one, I just did it. But this one I really planned out. I did a sketch. I did the whole thing, and then it's just about cutting out the, cutting out the glass, and then starting to cut the foam. And
so is it like you start from, because in your head, knowing that you don't have a second chance, you cut something, you're cutting it out. So do you start at one point and then you just go until you feel that's what it should look like with the shape?
Well, what I start out with is I draw it all out, and then I notch out all of the negative space, right? So I'll start cutting, and you can even see some of my pencil marks. So I'll cut out all the negative space. Of course, first thing I do is cut out the glass, right? And then I start cutting out all the negative space, and then I start by, well, this is behind this. This is ahead. Everything is, it's a three-dimensional thing.
Yeah.
So you have to create from back to front, right? So little by little, I'm taking away this piece. This piece is going to be on top. This piece is going to go underneath, and it's the same with the portrait. You just start taking away the things that don't look like what you want it to end up being, right? Okay. And you have to think about it, but.
And then with the color, I mean, I see a board that has no color, and it really brings the attention just to the details and the time that you really spent into it, and then you add color, and it makes it really pop. Like for you as an artist, is there a difference between working with color? Because I know for myself, when I do things, I do it black and white, and when I try to add color, it really confuses me, even if it's just one spot, just because it's just, that's just not the way I really think. But for you, is there a difference between adding color in your work and not?
It depends on what my original vision, if in my original vision, the way I saw it, when I first thought of the piece, if I saw it without color, then I like to keep it that way. And if in my mind, when I first thought of it, I saw, like with this one, I saw it with color, right? So because it's a portrait, I had to add features to it. Sculpturally, you can do a portrait without painting eyebrows and eyes and and color in the hair. But in my mind, I saw it that way. So my goal is to get the finished piece to look as close to what I have inside of my head. And of course, as you create, things change and evolve, and sometimes you go off on a different tangent, which is the fun part of creating, right? It's that's the cool part, is that it's not like you're not following a rule book.
And not to feel guilty about it.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
That's the part that
really creates. It's like when you go for a hike in some place you've never been, right? Yeah. It's the exploration of something, and creatively that's as fun as any. That's the big fun part of it, right? And like I said, for me, it's about finishing the vision that I have in my head. And if you don't have color as part of the vision, then there's no need for it. Because I enjoy this white piece. I enjoy it the way it is, because that's how I saw it. And I actually tried to do color on it. And
did it work out?
It didn't work, and I was fighting the nature of the original concept, right? And
when do you know it's finished? Like, being such a complicated piece and wanting to give it your best, how do you know that your time has come, that you should just step back and allow it to be what it is?
I think for me, it's you know that you know it, and that's a vague answer for that, because I think for everybody it's different. But you have to know when to walk away. I think that comes with experience, though, because if you're creative and you do it long enough, you know when to walk away from something.
How long have you been working? So that was your first piece?
That was the first one, and that was that was probably 6 years ago, something like that. 2000, probably 5-6 years ago, I started with that one.
And you just recently finished that one?
It's been finished, but it's been an evolution, right? It's like anything, because when I first started doing this, I never saw it before. Nobody showed me how. I didn't have any kind of. I couldn't go on the internet and look up, a YouTube video of, how do you carve surfboards? And there was nothing out there. Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm the one that created it, but to me, I had to figure it all out. Yeah. And so the process of figuring it out has lasted a long time, right? And getting to where I am now is...
Knowing that there wasn't any pieces like your tools, what you used to create such a thing, what kind of tools? I see that you brought some.
I did bring some, and the thing about when you when you're trying to do something, sometimes you have to make your own tools. I know you do the same. And so you use tools that are already existing tools. Sometimes you have to make your own tools because
So that's with sandpaper. So you carve this and then just glue sandpaper.
yeah, then I just glue sandpaper onto
so
it.
that's how you get like in the
Right, because
deep
then I can get into
points.
into
Okay.
the cracks.
Interesting.
But I can't go out and buy these kinds of tools because they don't exist.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to, and maybe they do, I don't know. But I wasn't going to wait around to find them in a store somewhere. I just have to make them.
So it's just whatever you were able to gather.
Yeah.
And you go out to look like particular. I know you mentioned there were some of these dental.
Yeah, and these are like micro files, which are handy for little small details when you want to get in little small places, especially when you start getting into the final part, when you're starting to do little details and you're getting into these fine little points, or if you're doing a mouth or an eye, or you're getting into the hair. Sometimes it starts to get down to these really fine kind of tools, right?
Yeah, because even that, I mean, it's so detailed. my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah. But I enjoy that, right?
Yeah.
I like when I start working, I like getting into all the little small things and making it nice, right?
So that one intrigues me. One, because the color, what type of paint is that?
This is all oil paints.
It's oil. Okay.
All oil paints, and then I use an epoxy finish on
It
it.
makes it look so wet. That's why the texture that it creates on it.
Right.
But also, it's just this frame. Like, did you remove that at first, carve into it, and then put it back in?
Is
that how that works?
This is, yeah, because I have the glass on the outside, and the whole concept was that it's like a flower or sea creature emerging from its shell, which was the whole premise, right? And so now it's growing out of it like that. And I wanted to have it. I wanted to keep kind of to have a marine look. That's why I wanted the kind of a wetness and a randomness to the paint. I didn't want the paint to look too controlled, right? Because the carving is really controlled. So I wanted the paint to be really loose and free and kind of like random like that, you know.
And what is the name of that one? You gave a name.
This is sea flower.
Okay.
So
sea
it's
flower.
it's the idea behind it is that it's a mix between the flowers and the sea, you know, like the mix between the land and the sea, which is in a way what surfboards they do have. That they're above the water and they're below the water. There's that
Have that
kind of
fluidity. kind
right,
of
but
emotion to
they're
it.
really solid. And so
And then what is this piece? I mean, it kind of looks similar in this oceanic kind of a feel.
Right.
I mean, this is one same series that you're working
this one
on.
and this one, this is the first one, and this is the Sea Flower 2, and this is part of a series that I'm working on where I'm trying to mix florals with marine, and so like this one is also a if you look at it on its side, this is the way it's supposed to be presented. You can see here this is like a bird of paradise, right? And then there's kind of heliconia, and then it's kind of like
I
a
see
nautilus or an octopus where it's got the tentacles, and even plants. If you think about marine creatures and plants, they have a lot of similar things, right?
Yeah.
Like the vines and the tentacles. It could be either one, and I'm
Yeah.
leaving that up to the interpretation of, you know, whoever might buy it or whoever might put it on their wall. They can think of it as a marine or a mix, or you know, and that's why I'm just naming them like Sea Flower 1, Sea Flower 2, Sea Flower 3.
Yeah.
I want it to be kind of vague, and so that people when they have it as a piece of art in their house, they can interpret it any way they want. It's
They
not
can
a
really
real thing.
connect to it.
Yeah,
with their
in
own self.
whatever way that they like, you know. And I
Yeah.
think that when in art that's a big part of it, right? You have your own story and your own message behind it, but when people first look at it, they may not know that.
Yeah.
They have their own
I told-
feeling, you know?
What is this?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. Yeah, right?
I was saying, no, but I mean, it's totally art to you until there's no story, until you can really either capture somebody else's story or you
Right.
can find a way to really put your story into
Right.
this art piece.
But when they first see it,
yeah,
they have a connection to it.
yeah, it's
So-
something that just draws you.
Right. And so they have their own, they're already creating their own interpretation of it when they first look at it. Before they even read the whatever title it has or whatever stories behind it. I think there's a connection that people have to a piece of art, you know, and that's an individual
I
thing.
mean, just to even see, I mean, making up your own, that's so, I have high respects for you in that sense. And that piece too, what is there a story to that one?
Well, this one I was trying to do something a little bit smaller, right? And if you see, this is the rail right here. This is the glass
yeah.
right here. So I was just trying to do it in a you know.
And you kept the signature.
Yeah, I did. Gotta have my name on there.
Oh, that's your signature. I was like, oh, you
Yeah.
kept the surfboard signature.
No, that would be in the middle of the board. This is just the edge. So it would be kind of like that would be that part of the board right there. So I had a broken board that I just cut up into pieces so that I could make smaller pieces because these big ones take a long time.
And that, I mean, with the black too, it really pops. That's why even with this, like I see that you finished, there's finishing on the back where you used to hang it.
Right, right.
And the white of it, just looking at it, really pops in the sense if there was no white, you would only be seeing the back. But creating this process, I mean, creating this art for yourself and then coming to a final stage, something like a gallery, even coming up with a backing could be very difficult. How do you get to that point? Like what goes through your head? You know, there's so much the different material you're going to use, the different type of thatching or whatever.
Right.
What is your process of coming? Does that come to you real fast? Or are you one of those that can just bang through it and figure it out?
I think with this kind of thing, I had to come up with the concept of how to finish it, right? Because ultimately a piece like this has to hang on the wall, right? So
you can really keep the curvature.
Right, and so now when it's presented, it's a solid piece. It has a backing. It's presented in the right way. When somebody buys something from you, if you're creating art, you want to. It's like putting a frame on something. You know, you can take a picture and print it out and put it on the wall, but if you put a beautiful frame on it and you finish it, it elevates the piece. It helps present the piece. You know, and like this one, this also has.
That's so cool.
You know, it has a backing.
And it's solid. It just
It's
makes
solid.
it solid.
And when you put it on the wall, it hangs properly. You know, these are the things that, as artists, sometimes people don't think about. They don't think about how am I going to present this? How am I going to finish it? How am I? You know, because when somebody buys it and they're spending good money on it, they don't want it to be wobbly and not proper, right? You know, and you have to pay respect to what you create too, right? If you put a lot of your own time and your own creativity and your effort into it, you want to. It's like the last step is to present it in the proper way, you know. And it's a lot of times people don't do that. They try to rush the end, and it's the end. It's the finishing thing is what takes it to the next level, right? The museum quality or the gallery quality piece, right?
The one thing that just popped in my head, and I think it would be important, I mean, for aspiring artists who are going through that phase of really creating their art, for you being part of this for so long, you know, doing your art, figuring this out, starting it from scratch, and just being in the fine arts realm, you know, were there any times that you just wanted to, you know, just, I quit, you know, I don't want to do it anymore. You know, something so complicated goes through a lot of trials, but the final product, it makes it worthwhile. Is there something that you can share on that, like any experience with that?
Well, I think that there's always there's a struggle, and it's a fun struggle, you know, but there is you know, you have to persevere. It's like anything that has value, you have to work hard at it. It doesn't just, it's not just going to lay down in front of you and you're going to be like, wow, look at this amazing thing that I got. You have to put the effort into it. And with the, you know, with that struggle, there comes times where you start doubting yourself. Like with this one, I never done a portrait before. And when I started, I was like, what can you do this? Are you going to, but then I had to talk myself out of it. It's almost like you know, you got to give yourself a pep talk in a way, like, yeah, you can do this, just do it. Just do it. And what if it doesn't work out? Well, so what?
Yeah.
Well, nobody's going to know. I'll just put it to the side and nobody's going to care. But you have to believe in yourself, and then you have to push through those hard times, right? You have to get through that time where you doubt or where you're like, this is taking too long, or it's not coming out the way I think. And then you just got to keep at it until you get to a point where eventually you're done.
Yeah.
But you have to have that You have to, if you believe in it, you got to stick with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you stuck with it because I know that there will be a lot of people out there who are going to want to try this now. You know, that
I hope so.
that they know and create, evolve. You talking about evolution, evolve this type of practice because it's amazing to the eyes to see, and so I give you credit and big props for that.
Yeah, well, I hope people do it. I don't want to
Yeah.
be the only, I don't want to be the only one. I hope other people will see this and try.
Yeah.
You know,
Find
because
a surfboard, clean up
Yeah.
the beach, and turn it into art.
yeah, of course, yeah. You know, it's not. I don't own anything. It's not
Yeah.
exclusive to me. I want other people to do it. I
Yeah.
want to be. I'd like to see a whole gallery full of this kind of stuff. It would
Yeah.
be awesome, right?
Gallery of recyclables.
Yeah,
That'd be cool.
It would be cool.
Yeah. So any artists out there, I mean, if you see a you hear the message that Ruben shares, and you want to create your own art, don't give up. Do it. And if you see this may be something you want to try, pick up something. Find something on the beach and do what your na'au tells you to do. I think that's what I got from
Yeah,
your
exactly.
message. So thank
Yeah.
you for sharing. But before I keep looking at the clock, it's a big distraction. But before we get cut off, I want to make sure I can finish this off. So I want to share. So you're a member of Hawaii Culture and
Yeah.
Retail Association.
Yes, of
So
course.
thank you for them also for sponsoring the show. Gives Hawaii and our artists and practitioners a really good opportunity to really bring to your television sets the stories of their art that maybe we don't have the time to share in a time of sale. So stepping out of that, thank you very much, HCRA. For you out there, if you want to stay tuned for our next episode, which will be next month, for Aloha Authentic, we will be airing every third Monday of the month, of each month at 6 o'clock on channel 53. So stay tuned to next month's episode. We're going to bring some more interesting creative stories to your television set. Until then, be sure to like our Facebook page at Aloha Authentic and Hawaii Culture and Retail Association to keep up to what new art there is in the world and in Hawaii. On that note, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. And stay tuned next month. And don't worry, next time I'll bring the poi. Aloha. Hui hou.